for our Chapter 9 mini lecture, I wanted to take a look at the second part of the chapter, which is about the vulnerability of memory and how they interfere and play with one another. So in the first kind of section here, we have vocabulary fade, which is the gradual disappearance of a memory based on its physical loss from the brain. Then retrieval is the act or process of accessing information from LTM, and forgetting is the inability to retrieve information from LTM. So in general, there's two processes to explain why we forget things, and both actually are always at work in the brain. So there's memories either being gone or misplaced, and when they're gone, that requires that memories fade, which is a vocab term explained up above. If the physical basis of the memory is really gone, the memory would be lost for good. So then the second possibility is that the memory is still present but just misplaced. So forgetting is a problem in retrieval, the act of accessing information from the LTM. So memories can be gone or misplaced, and essentially gone means that they faded and misplaced means retrieval. And there's failure to consolidate information sometimes on both. This section focuses also on the inability to retrieve information actually entered into the LTM. So sometimes one memory can interfere with another, and we have proactive interference and retroactive interference. Proactive is the type when an existing memory interferes with the formation of a new memory, and retroactive is the type of interference when forming a new memory interferes with retrieval of an old memory. So then having some sort of habit and then breaking it, you'll try to go back to that habit, and that's proactive interference. So if you have a habit of doing something one way, you're conditioned to do that certain thing one way, and then you break it, that is proactive interference. So the more similar two stimuli are, the more the memories of those stimuli can interfere with one another. A common example of proactive and retroactive interference is learning languages, because say a person who's taken French in the past may find that the rules of pronunciation for that language interfere when learning Spanish, for instance, or another language. So if they studied Spanish for several years and then visited France, they may find the newly acquired memories for Spanish pronunciation retroactively interfere with the old memory for French pronunciation. And so funny enough, it's good that we can forget certain things in our life. So proactive and retroactive interference illustrate why it's good that we forget those things. So if we remembered everything, as people seem to do sometimes, and there would be more similar memories that could interfere with our attempt to retrieve a particular one. So the next subsection is about several psychological phenomena that indicate forgetting is probably due to the failure in retrieval. So you have cued recall, which is the memory testing condition in which a participant is provided some hints about information requested. Free recall is the memory testing condition in which the person must retrieve this information without any hints or guidelines. Priming is the ability of information presented at one time to affect a person's response at a later time. Spreading activation is the idea that memories are somehow linked to one another based on characteristics that they share. So when you recall one word, it's most likely to lead to another, and then they're all related. Semantic webs are large networks of words with meanings that have different degrees of connection to one another. And then context-dependent retrieval is the improved ability to retrieve information when the conditions of the original learning are reproduced. So then I have some more information about semantic webs and context-dependent retrieval. The next subsection is about memory being susceptible to distortion. So here we have a memory trace, which is the physical record of a memory made in the brain by a learning experience. The misinformation effect is the susceptibility of our memory to incorporate false details that fit in. And then a flashbulb memory is vivid, detailed memories of a momentous event, such as 9/11, Pearl Harbor, and JFK's assassination, and other events like that. So here we have that new information added can affect a memory trace. And an example of a misinformation effect is the headlight example. So false memories can be created by asking leading questions and leading someone somewhere. So rather than saying, Was the headlight broken? If someone says, did you see the broken headlight? That's leading, and suggesting that there actually is a broken headlight when in fact there might not be. So that's false information, false memory, and leads to misinformation. So yeah, flashbulb memories are vivid memories of events of very momentous occasions and events. So they're interesting to think about. Each separate person might have a separate flashbulb memory, many different flashbulb memories. And then a memory susceptible to distortion. We've always known that our memory is susceptible to distortion. And in fact, there's a classic study shown in the textbook about experimenters able to affect particular participants' recollection of simple drawings with just a few words. So that's the first little section of the second section of the chapter for memory.